Black men, you cannot hide under the skirts of black women. You must defend yourselves. It's going to sound insensitive, but it must be said. It is reported, and I saw, that one of the last words that George Floyd said was "Mama." That should have not been in the subconscious of a man, unless in fact she was reaching out her hands, but in desperation, in plea of someone saving. It should have been "Daddy," or any word besides calling out a woman. Black men, you must internalize it into the depths of your subconscious that you must defend yourselves and you must defend us. This thumbnail picture is an encapsulation of what should not be done. Black women, a fist symbolizes a punch. That is not our role. You're in your pretty white dress, and I will give the Floyd family credit for that. They wore all white to the funeral so that black does not symbolize something awful, but in this case, white did. But in that pretty white dress, you shouldn't be standing with your fist up in the air with this young man looking. It sets a very bad example. And I say that about the young women who are out there on those streets in megaphones and in harm's way. This is not our role. We deserve to be protected by our men, just like all other women are protected by their men, and unfortunately by black men as well. This video is a video that calls black men to action, to physical action with technology that meets the standards of this era. Now, that having been said, I'll continue with the rest of the video.
Racist police agencies throughout the country are intensifying the terror, brutality, murder, and repression of black people.
Black is beautiful. Freedom. Said our world is free. Freedom.
Racial tensions flared over the weekend in Oakland and Los Angeles, with more clashes between Negroes and police. In downtown Los Angeles yesterday, students and black power advocates joined forces to protest against police brutality.
Greetings. This is the Counter-Racist Evolving Engineer Program. The acronym for the program is CREE, C-R-E-E, and that is my handle. The date is June 12th in the year 2020. The time is 3 a.m. here in San Diego, California. The clip you just saw was actual news footage in sometime in the mid-1960s. It was embedded in a film entitled Seaberg, which is a recent release that you can find on Amazon. But it was actual news footage of the co-founder of the Black Panther Party for self-defense, Bobby Seale. This makes the point that opposition to police brutality, excessive use of force, is nothing new, of course. It also makes the point that non-black people, and specifically in that clip, white people, protesting along with black people against such subjugation, and violence is nothing new. In fact, what was happening then was not really anything new. Even in the 1960s, that was the second iteration of white people allying themselves to a large extent with black people. But yet, here we still are. Now, why do I say the 1960s was the second iteration? Because the first one was the Civil War. 750,000 soldiers, almost all of them white, died, half of them on the Union side, fighting about how black people should be treated in the United States of America. Still to this day, there were more white people who died in that war than any other war that American soldiers have been involved in. So white people being greatly involved and in opposition to those who would want to brutalize us and harm us even more is not new here in 2020. This is the third iteration. Now, what I will say is that the iterations don't come very often. There are long stretches of time between them. Between the end of Reconstruction and the 1964 Civil Rights Act was a little less than 100 years. And then about 57 years between the Civil Rights Act and this George Floyd tipping point during the COVID era. We could make it different, but to make it different, at the very least, we have to avoid the traps that got us during the tipping point in the 1960s. They laid traps, and we fell for them. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is play another clip. I'm going to go into Chrome to do that. I'm going to demonstrate how we keep evading the solution. We keep evading the solution, and they lay traps for us to evade the very obvious solution to our problem. But I'm going to let the clips speak for themselves. So let me mute my mic and go into Chrome, and I will play it for you.
I'm tired of it. How old are you?
I'm 45 years old.
45 and I'm 31.
And I'm tired of seeing
the older generation than me, and I am too.
And we've been standing
But let me
around
tell you
as the
something.
older ones, taking all this bullshit. Always hoping for a kumbaya.
Come here.
Always standing around for a kumbaya. Ain't nobody coming to protect us.
Let me tell you
We got to
something.
start our own life.
I understand. But let me tell you something right here. This 16, he's 16.
And they gonna kill him next
He's
week.
16.
What we gonna do?
You tell me.
What we gonna
but
do?
This ain't the way. Because they ready to let loose. If the United States president say, if you loot, we shoot. Do you think doing this gonna help?
I know it.
So it's
I
gonna
know
help.
it. But it's time to stand up.
So don't
at
get into it with him.
this point, I'm ready to die.
Let me tell
For
you
what's
something.
going on?
Let me tell you something.
That's the problem that we
What
got.
you see right now is gonna happen 10 years from now. And at 26, you're gonna be doing the same thing I'm doing. You understand that? 10 years. You're gonna be right here too.
But he also got to
So what I need
he
y'all
gotta
to
stand
do
up
right
for.
now at 16 is come up with a better way. Cause how we doing it, it ain't working. He angry at 46. I'm angry at 31. You angry at 16.
It's over.
You
man.
understand me?
It's over.
Putting yourself in harm's way is not the way.
No, it's not.
You and the other your counterparts the same age and that has that same power. Y'all come up with a better way. Cause we ain't doing it. And I have a 5-year-old son. And it ain't happening. I marched 4 years ago. Keep Lamont Scott did the same y'all doing. The same exact thing night after night after night. It don't matter. Come up with a better way. You understand me? You keep yourself safe.
Okay, so I've been saying this since 2009 when I was on Blog Talk Radio, and my programs can now play. I dealt with that, but maybe people will hear me now. Come up with a better way. Now, it's pretty obvious what the better way is. The 46-year-old man said, we're always waiting for somebody else to save us. We're always waiting for kumbaya. In other words, he was not impressed with all the white people marching, and certainly not with all the white people filming their conversation. And I'll tell you why they were filming the conversation. Because they wanted to know if black men were going to engage in mental evasion again. The answer is quite simple. Marching isn't going to do it. None of the things that we have done thus far are going to do it. None of the things that have been advocated, besides, as far as I can see, what I'm saying and what Marcus Garvey said in one little part of a speech, one sentence that is hardly ever repeated. But they're avoiding the simple truth. In the words of Marcus Garvey, and I have not heard it be the totality of what he had to say. Make no mistake, there is no justice but strength. Perhaps a variation of that was Malcolm X saying, we intend to get freedom by any means necessary. And the 46-year-old man said he was willing to die. Okay. And then the 31-year-old said, but you can't send the 16-year-old out. And basically what he was saying is we can't be going in for wholesale slaughter. Okay. So obviously here we know what the answer is. It's the same answer that the Chinese had. It's the same answer that the Japanese had. It's the same answer that Iran had. You have to be able to physically defend yourself. You have to be able to physically defend yourself and your efforts. And in this day, that means you have to have technology that contends with those who would harm you. And any ally would understand that. Any ally would understand that. Any ally would engage in technology transfer with us. There has been technology transfer from the Europeans to other Europeans with whom they once had conflict. There has been technological transfer between the United States and the Europeans and Asia. There has been technological transfer between the Asian nations who have had conflict. There has been no technological transfer from the rest of the world to any nation state or any group of people who are black on this planet. Which means we will have to innovate our way into, and Lord knows we can innovate anything. But I have been saying this for about 11 years, and maybe this time you hear me. The better way is the technology. Now, I am not saying that we should not take what is being offered, whatever is offered, even if it is a paltry amount, even if it is insufficient. Take it anyway because it could help us in what we have to do. Like Neely Fuller says, you ask for what is needed. You accept what is granted. You compare what was given to what you asked for. If there is a difference, you must compensate for it. Sure. But there's no reason for us to be expending all that energy into something that ultimately is going to lead us back around in circles. The answer is simply for black men, and I do mean black men principally, to put their heads together and innovate with technology to defend ourselves. It doesn't have to be a military. It has to be something as innovative as the personal computer was in the late 1970s. The amount of computing power that exists on this planet today that is so inexpensive that can just be put in your hand, the amount of learning that can be done, is something that wasn't possible in generations past. Sure, the technology that holds us in place is far more powerful than in generations past. But the potential for innovation is staggeringly more possible as well. And that is what people were listening for. All of those white people who were filming that on their phones, they were listening to what that meant. All of the world, the 3 million, 4 million people who viewed that last video, they were listening for that because they thought they heard that. They thought what they were hearing is that black men were going to concentrate on coming up with technological, physical defense. That's the one thing they're afraid of, because that's the only answer. And they're trying to forestall it. To make my point, let me show you this in Chrome. I don't think I have to turn off my microphone for this. Oh, well. Yes, I do. Because what I want to show you is that, in fact, that is what they were listening for. So this 31-year-old who you just saw, his name is Curtis Hayes. He was invited to Good Morning America because the viral had gone video. The video had gone viral, and the whole world wanted to hear what he meant by, you gotta find a better way. You gotta do it differently. What I want you to do is to do it. Everybody wanted to hear that. So of course they would send a black woman to ask him. They invited him. Now, they did not invite the 46-year-old who said he was ready to die. If they did invite him, he declined. They did invite the 16-year-old, whom I have no critique of because that is a child. I will have a critique of Mr. Hayes because he is engaging in the mental evasion that black men have engaged in for hundreds of years. But let's listen to his response to the question. The whole world had their fingers behind their ear, listening to what his answer would be to the question. I'm going to blow it up so you can see it very well. Here he goes. I've queued it up.
Yeah, 3 generations and the 3 of you coming at it from a different direction. That's 16.
Let me do that again because I know there was reverb because I forgot to turn off my mic. Let's hold on. All right, going back.
and the three of you coming at it from a different direction. That 16-year-old, and that was beautiful when you pulled him to you and how respectful he was to you. Raymond Curry is the young man's name, and you said to him, you've got to find a better way. So to you, Curtis, what is that better way?
The better way is not, turning your anger and creating rage. It's turning your anger and turning it into the fire and the desire to understand what is needed in order to cause the change. So when I told him that, after that moment, I continued to speak with him, and I'm just telling him, yo, educate your mind on the laws, educate your mind on legislation, educate your mind on the Constitution, know what your rights are as a United States citizen. That is how you are going to get change, is when you go and understand that and you go and you fight to change that. That is where the change is going to come.
Okay, so there was the evasion. We all know that's not where the change is going to come. Knowing what your rights are, knowing the Constitution, knowing the laws. We have many black lawyers who have passed the bar. We have people who know the law better than people who have passed the bar, called jailhouse lawyers. We have people who pass the laws. We have many black legislators, state and federal, black mayors, black city councilmen, black county supervisors. Come on. We've even had a black president. Those are all positions within a system, and it can only go so far. They continue to harm us. And the reason they continue to harm us is because they can do it with impunity. And black men keep going all the way up to the line. We got to do something different. And they stop just short of we have to create devices, I'll call them that can contend with the devices that harm us. Robert F. Williams was different. Let me tell you how. In order to get something done, you must have both the ability and the will. It isn't that black men don't know what the next step is, and it isn't that they're incapable of the mental innovation that is required to do the science, the technology that will defend us. They don't have the will. And the reason they don't have the will is because defense, physical defense, the ultimate foundation and reason for it is to protect access to your women. And black men do not covet the access to their women the way other men do. It's a very long and old fight that black men and black women have had. I will be getting to that later. But let's just get back to the fact that the whole world expected us to be there. They expected us. They still do. They still are not quite clear that we aren't going to do the obvious thing that any other people would have done, which is to use science and technology to defend ourselves. Let's look at how they were trying to get out ahead of it. Now on this one, I don't think I need to mute my mic because there's no sound to the next one, to the next tab. Shut down STEM. Yeah, I'm going to type it in so you can see it. It's not telling me how many posts there have been in a period of time, but this morning when I logged in, it said that there had been something like 700 tweets in the last 2 hours, and I know that the previous day there were tens of thousands. To the extent that Gizmo allowed an article to be published on it. Scientists call for academic shutdown in support of Black lives. But see, where they steered it was the same way that they steer it with politics and law and education. In other words, we want to support you within our system, and we're going to make sure that you get access to the types of things we've been denying you within industry, within the labs. We're going to support you, and we're going to publish your work, and we're going to cite your work. And we've been practicing anti-blackness within the academy. And so for one day, we're not going to do any STEM work in support of you. But see, just like being a president or a mayor or a judge, if you steer the scientists in the direction of supporting the types of things that they're already doing, the status quo, it won't do us any good. It will only do us good if we steer those efforts in the direction of our defense. They saw that coming, so they're trying to head us off at the pass. You see? Now, the next one I do have to mute my mic for, because this one will show you just how serious. I've got to refresh the page. Just how scared. Pause. Just how scared they are this time, because they would think after all these iterations, they know what they have to do. So I'm going to mute my mic. This one is funny, but it's indicative of how serious they think we are.
God, we're not shaming anybody, God. We're just humbling ourselves before you. Yes, Lord. You brought the thunder and rain today, God, because Satan takes an L today. Father, in Jesus' name, you get the victory. Father, we ask for forgiveness from our black brothers and sisters for years and years of racism, of systematic racism.
Okay, so you heard the Southern accent. Those good old boys and good old gals taking a knee and asking for forgiveness from God and from those black people for years and years of racism. Now, symbolically, that's just something psychologically that the white psyche was not willing to handle 6 months ago. My take on it, now I know there are those of you out there who believe that the supernatural has changed the hearts of people all over the world. That savagery that we would see with the expression of glee as people hung from trees, or the great number of tweets in support of the murder of Trayvon Martin, has just disappeared. The hearts have been changed. I don't see it that way. I see it as the fact that more and more black people are saying, I don't want to talk about it anymore. There's even a book saying why I don't talk to white people about racism. There are whole spaces on Facebook and Twitter where it's made clear that we're not interested in talking. The problem that they understand is that once we've stopped talking, stopped trying to convince them, we're ready for some action. And we're not ready to just go out and be slaughtered. We're not ready to just go out. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight, and you don't bring a gun to a ultrasonic taser fight. The array of weapons that our opponent has is staggering. But innovation can trump it. And they know that there are enough of us who have had enough training there, and that technology that we can all hold in our hands and learn could have us at the point where we just have to come up with one idea and implement it. And they think we're there. That's where they would be. They think we're there. And so we're seeing things we've never seen before. Are we there? Or are we still backing off? I think we're still backing off. Because the men are not motivated. Next tab. When I say the men are not motivated, it can be illustrated by the historical figure Hakeem Jamal, who was a main character in the movie Seberg, a clip of which I showed at the start of this video. He was a member of the Black Panther Party. He was actually a cousin of Malcolm X. And at the beginning of the film, there is a scene in which he is on an airplane and he marches into the first class section. And he says that the queen, widow of Malcolm X, Betty Shabazz, was sitting in a cramped section and she deserved to be in first class. And he kept yelling that to the stewardesses. And there was a white woman there who was an actress who said she'd be glad to give up her seat. Well, a couple of scenes later, when she offers to take out her checkbook a little later, she says, when you marched into that compartment to the first class section, demanding a seat for Betty Shabazz, you weren't really doing that for her, were you? You were there for me. And of course he was. So you will see here, Jamal was, Hakeem Jamal that is, was romantically involved with several high-profile women, notably Jean Seberg, which is the title of the film, Seberg, Diana Athill, and Gail Benson. These are all white women, as you can see the pic to the left. You see, it's almost a natural coupling. Now, everything that is natural is not good. Everything that is natural is not good. I mean, there are harmful, toxic bacteria. Natural. Tornadoes and earthquakes, natural. Not good for us. But the black male, non-black woman is almost a natural coupling. Now, why do I say that? I think I would like to change the video back. Whoops, I can see that it wasn't even showing. Okay, so there it is. You heard me talking about it. There it is. And I'm not going to redo this video. I've done it like 5 times already. Okay, so they're almost a natural coupling. I'm going to have to leave it up there because you didn't get to see the other one then, right? So, and the reason I say that they're almost a natural coupling is because black women and black men have been having an issue where we haven't gotten it right. The fundamental reason that black men are not motivated to get the technology is because they're not motivated to defend us. And the reason they're not motivated to defend us is because we never have gotten the arrangement correct. We didn't have it correct before the system of racism, anti-blackness was ever established. It's been going on for many, 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 many tens of thousands of years. And, you know, the reason I say that the black male and the non-black woman are almost a natural coupling is because, look, black people were the first people on this planet. So we were the first people to have to reckon with the male-female issue. Women do not have to earn their place on this planet. Men do. Women, female humans, are only fertile 3 days out of the cycle. So men cannot depend upon rape as the primary transmission of their genetic material. When a woman is in estrus and she signals that she wants to have sex, she signals, "Come hither," that is the greatest chance that the woman is in the fertile part of her cycle. And so you build your society based upon a woman's selection, because otherwise simple intercourse, those other 25 days of the month, do not pass along your seed. So you build your society based upon women choosing you, and a dominance hierarchy is made for that. But if you don't want women to choose, if you don't want them to have that kind of autonomy, if you want to distribute the likelihood of being able to pass along your genes amongst more men, you create a dominance hierarchy that has a wider base. That's what it's all about. That's what patriarchy is all about. And black women are not, we're not like other women. There are some ways that we are different. Now, we are not as strong as men, and we are not as likely to engage in violence. All of those things we are, But the way that we're different is that we've been here a very long time, and we've been dealing with men, particularly our men, for a very long time. We know what you're up to. And we have been dealing with your domination of us for a very long time, long before the system of anti-blackness. And we're just not disposed to taking it for very long. We're not disposed to hitting you. We suffer violence at very high rates. I'm about to show you that in a second. But we could just get fed up and not want to deal with it. You can't just blow over us. Okay? So, because black men didn't want to negotiate with us, they went off to pastures that were easier to dominate. And the white woman, when she gets with a black man, this is why I'm saying it's almost a natural coupling. She's dealing with a man who will not dominate her as much as a white man. He can't, because the system of anti-blackness has built in a hierarchy that places her above black men. I've seen lots of non-black women, black male couplings, and I have never seen one in which the male was dominant. He is the one that is doing the child care. She is the one that is making all the schedules. He is the one that is pushing the stroller and holding the baby while she saunters off, footloose and fancy-free at the zoo. But he doesn't have to deal with someone who sees him and makes him fight and makes him be a warrior. In that earlier clip, it said, they were singing, "Set our warriors free." Okay, isn't that funny? Why would you be singing and begging to have your warrior set free? If you recognize it's a war, you don't sing about your warriors being freed. A war is a war. It's not a moral issue. And so I feel that black men are being hypocritical. As they say, hate the game, don't hate the player. You see, black men are in the business of physical brutalization. Those who don't do it silently support it by not calling it out. Black men don't have any problem with physical brutalization. That system of it. They have no problem with it. They mete it out to each other, and they mete it out to us, black women. But then when it's meted out to them, they have a problem with it. And I don't know why they're having a problem with it when men do it, because it's a war. We know that they know it's a war because they use words like warrior. Nowadays, they use the term race soldier, which means you know you're in a war. And if you are in a war, then you are a soldier. So if one soldier kills one of your soldiers, that's just war. That's not a moral issue. Men are at war with each other for access to reproduction. That's the bottom line of it. It's a war. Now, we could try to turn the whole table around. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it has to persist. We can just do away with systems of physical domination. But as long as we're in it, play the game correctly. Get in the game technologically, but you won't go there. Some time ago, and don't worry about it, Facebook friends, I'm not going to show your name. Some time ago, I did some research comparing the violence of black men towards black women to the violence of police officers against black women. Now, the reason I did that is because just as it is a moral issue for adults to brutalize children, because it is not in the best interest of a collective of people or the human race or the human species generally to brutalize children. It is not in the best interest of a collective of people, a race, or the human species generally to brutalize women. Women don't bring the violence. I don't know why nature made it that way, but males of every species bring the violence. The only reason that females of any species need males to protect them is because of what other males might do to them. And it is only the cowardly who use the murder of women to scare us into submission. They don't intend to kill all women. In war, they kill the men, they rape the women. So women, they're not going to kill us all, but they are killing enough of us and brutalizing enough of us to scare us into submission. And then they complain about losing a war. It's not even the same thing because we're not challenging them. To the tiny extent that we do challenge them and even cause their death, it is because it is in self-defense of their brutalization. Women are not violent. We don't offend norms. There are a few that are. Yes, I know there are exceptions. We're talking about collectives. It's really annoying to always have to say that. But black men kill black women 3 times as much as race soldiers kill them. The difference is we're not in a war with them. But they know that they're in a war with other men. But they won't step to the plate either because they're waving the white flag almost literally. They don't want to deal with us. Because black women are different. We know what we like. We're not as hypergamous. Because we know what we like physically. Because that is passing along healthy genes to our offspring. And were there not a system of anti-blackness that non-black men have erected in order to handicap black men's access to all women, including black women and all other types of women, if there were not that system, there would be a lot of black men who would have stuff. And they would have the physical appeal of their genetics. So there's that system. Now, everybody benefits off of the system of anti-blackness, which ultimately places black women at the bottom. Black men like it because it puts us in our place. White women like it because it disadvantages us in a way where we would otherwise have an advantage. Black women have been here a long time. Not only do we know what you're up to, that's why it's not easy to dominate us. Because we can call you out and ask you to be a soldier for us. And without yelling or screaming or anything like that. We also really know how to please a man. You see. So we would have an advantage, and white women know that. Non-black women generally know that. So the system of anti-blackness that is hinged upon oppressing black women works for them. And it works for white men because it goes along with the title of that book, The Whole World is a Brothel. In other words, the system of anti-blackness entitles all people on the totem pole above black people. And that's not always white people. Asians live longer than Europeans. He gets access to all women, just like during slavery he had access to all the black women who were in slavery. So it all turns on that, but it wouldn't have started. See, this is more than just the Willie Lynch letter, where we were artificially divided. No, we were divided, but before it all started, along male and females. If black men would be willing to negotiate with us about their presence, where if they want to defend us, against other men, fine. They say, well, what happens if there are groups of people who are foraging for this or that, and there's only enough for one group of people? Well, I can tell you that in the tropical regions that hardly ever happens. And when it does happen, the women are going to be much more likely to negotiate and reach a compromise settlement. Men want the winner take all. And that's just because they want access to women, or more access to reproduction, more chances at reproduction. Yeah, so I think there's a picture of a gun here just to make the point. The gun crisis we aren't talking about. Black women are under attack, and America doesn't care, including black men. And it doesn't have to just even go to that. At any rate, black women are 4 times as likely to die of homicide by men than any other woman. But we don't hear that. What we got to hear about is them losing a war. There's a difference between the abuse that's meted out from men to women than the war that is being lost by black men. Now you could say, well, there's supposed to be some rules to war. You know, even in martial arts, you're not allowed to strike someone who's down. You're not allowed to strike someone who's unconscious. I mean, yeah, but when it gets down to real war, total war, there are no rules. And you should know that by now. So, black men, I hope this time you don't fall for the invitation to be interviewed. Because you see, he could have, Curtis Hayes, the 31-year-old, he could, where is he? He could have declined the interview. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for the lure of speaking engagements and fame. Don't fall for the lure of a less formidable woman, but one who's less pleasing. Don't fall for it this time. And don't fall for any strategy, be it buying black business, learning the laws, getting a good education. This time, keep your eye on the prize, and that is a means to technologically defend your people. If you can defend your women, you can defend yourself. That's how you will get motivated when you come to terms with us. Other men are motivated because they've come to terms, some kind of terms with their women. Yours is more challenging because we're in a different league, having been here so long on this planet. We as people are in a different league. But that's what you're called to do. And until you get right with us, hey, you can get on Alice Walker all you want, and you can make fun of Whoopi Goldberg's, that's a meme of Celie in the movie, but it's true. Until you do right by us, everything you even think about is not gonna, I can't quote it exactly, it's not gonna go right. Mista didn't hand over those letters and pay for the passage of her children for no reason. It was because he finally realized that nothing was going to go right. Get right with us. Then your motivation to protect us will return, and then your motivation to create what needs to be created with your mind will return, and you will be defended yourself. I always check to make sure that I haven't left off something that I should have. I want to say thank you to all of you who have supported the work on this channel by your technical support. That would be Max. Bigavel's also known as Kofi. Clarence Henry from Holland, and congratulations to you, sir, for Black Pete being outlawed in Holland as a result of this, this era, this George Floyd era. Congratulations. But thank you for your support. Thank you to those of you who have donated financially. Keisha and Cushite Prince, thank you so much. It's so appreciated. And thank you to all of you who have shared my videos. And whether that's, as a message or on your wall, on your page, on Facebook or Twitter or where have you. I appreciate that. And thank you to all of you who have listened. So, of course, I want to invite those of you who have not already subscribed to do so and hit the notification bell. Also to like this video or dislike it. That helps too. And I'd like to hear your views on what you saw and heard in this video. Should be a very interesting conversation. I'm prepared to have a 6-pack of water and spend a couple of days just responding to your comments on this one. So I hope you'll leave comments. And with that, this has been the Counter-Racist Evolving Engineer for Friday, June 12th, 2020. Leaving you with this image and signing out.